Jeff Harry, Rediscover Your Play. I'm here with Humaira Hamid. And can you explain what we're about to look at?
So we've just been in this conversation about a person and their idea of what they founded and what they've begun. So there's a number of conventions, and this person, whose name I cannot remember, is the founder of the Manosphere. And I happened to bring it up to Jeff, and so he pulled it up, and we're about to look at it together and just talk about what we see.
And what is the Manosphere based off what you know so far before I pull it up?
I don't actually remember. I know more about the conventions that have gotten a lot of buzz because they're framed in a very inflammatory way, and the formula worked, and a lot of people were talking about it, including me, to Jeff.
Now we're even talking about it more, but okay, I don't know if I should give love to this actually, but okay, let me pull it up. Okay, so, all right, do you see it?
Oh gosh, yeah.
I know. So,
okay.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Look at this. Look at this. Okay, what are your first reactions? Oh my God. Wait, hold on. Let me move this thing so you can see the guy. Oh, he has a make women great again. He's got to make women great again. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So, okay, what do you see, Jeff?
Okay, I first see two white dudes that look extremely entitled. So that is the first thing that comes out. Then I see...
Pause.
Yeah.
What do you see in this? Like, literally, what are you looking at? What are your eyes taking in? Because what I heard from you was...
my eyes first take in the two dudes because they seem to be the highlight, right? Then I barely see a woman in the background. And what I just see is, because there's so much text going on here, but what stands out to me is the world's ultimate event for women and make women great again. Those are the things that two stand out for me. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
I was going to say, when I heard you say, I see two white men who seem extremely entitled. It was like the older looking, the white-haired gentleman with the beard and the distinguished kind of like open collar with the kerchief in his pocket. He could be of mixed ancestry. I don't know. Like,
oh, right.
Who am I to make assumptions or whatever it is? He looks kind of kindly, like, you know, he's got a whatever face. And then I see this younger person who has a PowerPoint clicker or some sort of like presentation clicker in his hand. And he's got this, right? He's got the like classic, I'm going to explain something to you because I'm an expert speaker.
Right. The TED Talk stance, even though he's in a t-shirt.
Not even TED Talk stance. I find TED Talk stances are a lot more like, I have this story to share. I have this big idea. And this is like the classic sales influencer persona, right? Of like, he's got his hands and he's looking down probably at the text that he knows he already wants to get across.
Yep.
It doesn't seem to me necessarily that this is a space of dialogue so much as I'm here to tell you something.
Yeah.
So let me tell you something. And he's wearing a red hat that is styled after what I think we're really, really used to seeing right now, and is associated. So it's a symbol, and it's meant to elicit a specific response. This entire thing is designed to elicit a specific response.
Yes.
And it's a very polarizing response. You're either a hell yes to this, or you're a hell no to this.
Yes.
There are very few people that are able to WTF this.
Yes. And what's so also interesting is it's the world's ultimate event for women, but you barely see a woman in here.
Well, the woman on the cover, as I understand it, this is the cover for this gentleman on my right when I'm looking at the screen with the red hat. It's his book title, cover. And the title, I can't read all of it, but it says, Men Prefer Debt-Free Virgins, something
tattoos.
Oh, without tattoos. Men prefer debt-free virgins without tattoos.
Wow. Oh, wow. I mean,
so that's
even the little sash or whatever it is, the thing in the guy's pocket,
Oh yeah, the
I
little
feel like
pocket square.
elicits something because it has the same things as the American flag that also is perfectly placed
Right.
that you don't see, you know, you kind of see. And then they've sprinkled pink on there as if that to be like, you know, this is for women.
Well,
This is for you.
it is very, very strong and clear in its messaging.
Very clear in his messaging.
It's extremely clear on its messaging. And I will say some of the other things that I notice is like 21 Studios presents.
Right.
Who's 21 Studios? It's, as I understand it, this person who's putting together this entire convention is also involved in 21 Studios. And then there were a few media clips that I had taken in because I just got so curious about this and wanted to like case study it. That's what we were talking about when this came up in our conversation earlier today. So I was like, so if I move past the like reaction that's trying to be provoked from me, what do I see here? What are the layouts? What are the structures? And in my experience, having worked in both nonprofit communications and in professional communication, public speaking, and in startups for a decade combined, give or take, this is a very specific formula. When I put together events, like I followed a very similar structure because these are the things that are meant to indicate authority, build trust, and signal expertise of like, why would you want to come to this? And legitimizing something. So it's not like, oh, this was one person's idea that's now just out. There's organizational backing behind this. That's what the 21 Studios
exactly.
seems
It's not
to
a
convey.
person, it's an organization, right?
Right. And so, of course, organizations are, you know, they have governance, there's checks and balances, all of the things that are maybe assumed from an organizational thing. From somebody who may not have the understanding of how these kinds of things work from the back end, we can only be as critical as the tools we're given to be able to parse things out, I think. So 21 Studios presents the world's ultimate event for women, the 22 convention. The font is a very particular thing. The coloring is a very particular thing. And, you know, there's the like CTA call to action button for like reserve your seat now, one of many I'm sure that they're going to hit us with. In Orlando, Florida, USA, and then the date of this convention. That's what I start off with.
Can I keep scrolling down? I'm like worried. Oh, there's a countdown. Oh, it's only in 2 days. Oh my God. Oh, the
right, so pause,
media.
actually go back up if you would.
Oh my goodness.
Pause right here. Call to action. This, we've seen this
look
in
at this.
Coaching
Look at that.
websites, in whatever, like there's save $500. Oh my gosh, there's a deal. There's a whole psychology of urgency. Like the ticking countdown makes our depending on who you are and how much of this you've engaged with and how much of the story you're embroiled in, like it can have a physiological influence on yourself. I notice like I'm having to relax myself again when there's like a point something second countdown. It makes my stomach clench. And I'm having to work right now to like relax and be like, it's fine. Nothing has changed from when you scrolled down.
You
know, 2 minutes ago.
Well, also there's a really interesting bait and switch that's happening, right? Because wait, is this 22 conference? This 22 conference is happening in 2020.
Correct.
But they are also advertising. Well, first they're telling us that only natural born women with 2 chromosomes can come, which I don't even understand why they shared that, but clearly
you understand why they shared that.
They shared it to evoke a certain reaction, but then also
and to make very clear what values they stand for and what they do not stand for. It is a very clear signal.
And also, even if people don't sign up for this, look what they've done, because they're like, how men can't come to this because it's just for women. But they've already are starting to advertise the next convention for men, which is probably the more important convention that they want to get people too. So,
right. So
they've gathered so much publicity from this one that
yes.
so many men are going to sell out 21's convention. And it doesn't really matter what happens with 22's convention because they already got what they wanted from it.
Yeah. And how have we already, you and I, contributed to their SEO and their, like, when you look at metrics to like sell sponsorships to companies and stuff, you talk about click-through rates on your website,
Yep.
you talk about number of seconds or minutes, the average that a person stays on your site. Like, you're feeding them right now.
Yeah, right now. And that's the ironic part is like, I don't even know if I should post this because it is also giving them attention.
Right. And if we can use this as a case study to understand what might be happening, like that's kind of, we've looked at all sorts of terrible things in the past and hoping to use that as a case study for lessons on how to move forward in a good way together, hopefully.
Yeah. And then I think what's also then interesting is then it goes to the media loves us, right? So
because the media does love them. Let's be honest. They are pulling in viewers. They're making people buzz. Like, I watched a Good Morning Britain clip that I wouldn't have watched otherwise because of this. So the media love us is a very accurate statement, I would say.
And what's also interesting though is the media. So usually one would add the logos, but also the link to it. But if you were to click on some of these links, I'm assuming with the New York Times and Good Morning Britain, they probably were questioning, them, while Blaze, which is, I know, much more right-leaning, would not, or New York Post is much more right-leaning, would not. But they don't care about that. They just cared about the fact that they got on. And that's all they need to communicate, that they got on.
And that is also kind of like
legitimacy that we
entrepreneurship publicity 101, right? Of like, pitch this story and like get picked up to as many places as you can. And then as soon as you get it, you go back to your website and you update it because that is what people are looking for as markers of, again, legitimacy, expertise, et cetera, et cetera. And how many of us have the capacity and the time to then go to the New York Times and see what that media coverage was?
Yep.
How many people do that to vet who we're buying from?
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just to wrap up that thought, when companies or organizations or entities do this kind of thing, it's meant to be a signal of like, hey, you can trust us.
Yep.
Here's all of these like New York Times as an entity, and the Good Morning Britain as an entity, the Sun, etc. Like, these are supposedly people that have checks and balances, accountability, again, etc. And if we're good by them, then we should be good by you. Like, you don't need to,
And if you still don't believe that, which they've already said earlier when they said make women great again, because they're really tagging it, they tag it again down here where they say make women great again. And then they're like, it's reached 150 million people. Now, whether it has or not, it doesn't really matter. The number provides additional legitimacy.
I bet it actually has, right? Because if you just count out these 12 media outlets that they've selected and you go on their viewership, it's the same as a smaller social media influencer being like, I have X followers. If you give me a night in your resort, this is the reach that you're going to influence or have an impression on or whatever. This is marketing in the digital age and whatever it is. This doesn't surprise me. I'm fascinated.
Yeah.
Frankly. And it's interesting to me that both times, Jeff, when you went to read that statement, MWGA, both times that I heard you went MAGA. And you slipped up and you caught yourself, and then you actually said
What did I say?
Whenever you were trying to read Make Women Great Again, you immediately started saying Make America Great Again. So this is the other big thing that they're pulling right now.
Exactly, because it's been indoctrinated in me because I keep hearing it over and over again. It's been hitting me so much that I don't even realize I did that. It's like if you ever
go get into your car and are on autopilot and all of a sudden you're halfway to your workplace or to the grocery store or to your house and you're like, wait, how did I do that? It's
how did I do that,
habituation,
and
it's
why is
repetition. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, how did I do that, and why is my radio on? How did that all of a sudden turn on?
Right. And how did I do that safely, etc.? Like you're not checked out. You're not dangerous necessarily. This is what people talk about when they mention implicit bias or ingrained habit patterns or muscle memory and things like that. Is what can you now perform in the world that you don't actually need your conscious, engaged, rational attention on, because you will pull that off. That's why I remember 90s lyrics when I can't remember what's in the fridge, or, you know, I have to look at my workflow for certain things or whatever it is. So that was really interesting to me, because I heard you say, make women great again multiple times. And as soon as we hear that, for a lot of us, that slogan is so tied to a lot of meaning and a lot of emotion and a lot of experience, that it has a physiological impact. I'm conscious of you. If you will do post this, consider putting a trigger warning on there, because for some people it's like their fight, flight, freeze, whatever physiological responses might get kicked up, because there's real consequences and real, I will say, violence involved with these words. And the people behind this conference are very, very conscious of that, and they're using that to their advantage.
So I just want to scroll to see if what else they have. They have their media that they throw up there. They have their VIP list, the most pro-woman event on the planet, 100% funded by women. What does that even mean? How can you have 100% funded by women,
Probably
and then the video is all dudes? How can you?
Probably because
my gosh.
The tickets, as I understand, are like $2,000 US for the conference, right? Not including room and board and flights and travel and meals, etc. And so the backgrounder of this that I do know is that this person who is standing front and center in this screen grab with his trademark red hat, right? Like he's already got a persona and a style that I can pull out from this entire lineup of people. And I have encountered him 2 times, right? The other day that I first came across this, and today when we're talking about it. But this 21 convention is the basis, is the flagship offering, and has been going for over a decade. And for the first year ever, this event for, quote, natural born women with 2 X chromosomes, end quote, is meant to be the complementary, simultaneous convention, right? This is happening on the same weekend. So you cannot go to both. You go to one or the other. I had clicked through and looked at the terms and conditions, the licensing agreements, and just the wording has been fascinating to look into. But again,
what do you mean by fascinating?
It's just, it is set up much like many other organizations and institutions to protect the best interests of the organization and the institution. It's the same as many institutions of higher learning. It's the same as many private companies. It's the same as many nonprofits. Actually, when you look at what are you having to sign as a potential employee, as a contractor, as a beneficiary, recipient, or some of the programs. Yeah, I see your face as you're scrolling down on
too much. It's just
on all of it,
and I haven't even gotten to a quarter of it. Okay, I gotta stop. It's just too much.
No, pause on that.
There's too much. There's too much. There's too much.
So what is happening for you right now?
What is happening is like there's just so much violence, like verbal violence of like.
Pause though. How? So if you pause right here, the war on motherhood.
Yeah.
Right? You scroll down, there was one like increase your femininity by 500%. Like it is the war on love and romance. If you have a certain experience of the world, it is clear as day that this is 100% violent.
Right. Raise your femininity by 500%. Like clearly set up to trigger, right? get pregnant and have unlimited babies, because that is what you are.
Wait, there's an asterisk on unlimited, so they must have some sort of biological.
But where's the asterisk?
Where's the footnote? I don't know.
Where, you know, because what this communicates to me is you are a vessel for babies, and that is what you are. That is all you're there for, right?
Yeah.
Beat the competition.
One of the very interesting things that I do see, if you scroll up to the the Motherhood and Unlimited Babies one, you've passed it. The War on Motherhood, and then the Unlimited Babies.
Unlimited Baby. All right, let me move.
This is one of the things, one of the talking points that I heard on one of the media things. So when we were talking about there's like 12 media outlets, and you said that there's no links to the actual media coverage. Those screen grabs, the grid of 4 though, were some of those YouTube clips.
Right.
So I had watched one of them, and he's talking about this founder person. I very intentionally am not using his name, but I now realize that I've constantly been giving him this like authority figure thing by calling him the founder of this website, let's say. Like he's the one behind this website, or is the person that hired the webmaster that made this website. One of the talking points in the conversation was how feminism has waged a war on motherhood. And I think it's easy if you paint any movement as a monolith, right? All Black folks, all Indigenous folks, all women, all anything. It's like, hi, we're human beings, and we have opinions that are some the same and some different, and one person can choose, if they're a person with a uterus, can choose to bear children and raise those children, and one other person can choose to not have children, and other people do not have that choice, or that choice is made for them in different ways, whether it's social or physiological or biological or whatever it is. Like he continues using that fire of tension of like, feminists are now making it bad for you to be a mother. Yep. Like now you need to be a career woman, where actual feminism is just to give people an equal choice in however they choose to live their lives. If you choose to be a biological parent or not, perhaps you surrogate, perhaps you donate your eggs, perhaps you foster, perhaps you adopt, perhaps you mother earth, perhaps you mother four-legged beings or more than human beings or whatever it is. Like motherhood in this sense is very specific, a la natural born women with 2X chromosomes. You are bearing these children in matrimony and are committed to raising these children in a certain way until they reach a certain age, etc. Like their definition of motherhood is very myopic.
Myopic.
And yet they talk about the war on motherhood and like feminism making it really hard for women to be themselves or choose their way.
Yeah, which is a strategy they always use. And then talking about the asterisks that you brought up, the asterisks where you go to it is our speakers will teach you skills to get wifed up, knocked up, and have as many babies as your heart desires with the time and fertility you have left, and how to bounce back to amazing health and wellness without extreme diets and stress, because you need to then look good after you have your baby so that I, as a man, feel better about you.
Right. So now you're adding that subtext. Will you do me the great honor of reading that final sentence in that paragraph?
The clock is ticking and your babies are soon to be kicking. So it's also going right at the core pain point of like, oh, you don't have babies? Oh, you don't have a man? Oh, you don't have that? Right. Well, if you attend this, we will tell you how to get a man.
Right.
You might have to give up some things, but you're going to get a solid man from this. Okay, I got to stop sharing the screen because it's too much for me.
Okay. So what I will say is that entire screen, that entire website seemed to me very specific around eliciting urgency, eliciting, if you do not ascribe to a very specific version of a story of how life could be and the right way of doing life and whatever the escalator model is, then it triggers shame and it triggers panic.
Yeah.
broad strokes, right? It may evoke many other things. And I actually want to say evoke rather than trigger, because that word is so loaded for so many people.
Yeah.
And means so many different things. And I'm not going to get into vocabulary definitions and shared language now, but you know that that's a big piece of it, and something that I think is so important, because people say patriarchy and it's like, patriarchy is a mechanism of power and wealth, passing power and wealth forward from one generation to the next. Matriarchy is another structure that does the same thing. Toxic patriarchy and the social and sociological and global and institutional effects is what people are pushing against. And it would be the same if we were in toxic matriarchy. And many people that have toxic relationships with the like matriarchal archetype in their lives, whether it's a boss, a mother-in-law in a marriage situation, a parent, whatever it is, like toxicity is what people are pushing against. Yeah. And the patriarchy has had generations to get toxic. But the entire website is created to evoke these things, to get a rise out of a person and incite them to some sort of action.
Yep.
In that way, it's following the same formula as every other website I've seen that's trying to get you to buy a product or a service, sign up for some subscription, get into something or whatever it is. When you don't need to be convinced is when you're so overloaded and you're like, I'm going to my favorite streaming service, whatever that is for you, because I just need to check out.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to go to the fridge and go for the favorite snack or whatever it is. And it's what I'm really excited about is our collective capacity to support ourselves and one another when we can and want to get beyond coping and get to curiosity and critique and holding people to account and holding institutions to account. Many people are already doing that. Many people have gone through the training and desensitization to this kind of website, you know, and the way that I heard you respond today, and you're like, I just gotta, I'm closing this now. I got there yesterday.
It's just too much for me. Yeah,
it's too much. And depending on what day it was and what I had to deal with, I would probably look at that and be like, raw. Right. And today I have the capacity. I did not. And the kind of like clarity and am deciding like how much of my life have I now invested in having a conversation about this. And it's because I don't have dependents tugging at my pant leg or like licking at my hands for food or, you know, like a work deadline that is in 20 minutes or whatever, right? Like many people are committed to and have to do many other things. And this kind of garbage is really inflammatory. Yeah. Now my bias is like straight out clear. And I wanted to be a little bit more quote neutral and quote objective about this, because that's a lot of the conversation and the rhetoric that I hear from a particular side of, you know, if we could just like tone down the emotions a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a deliberate use of violence and provocation in and of itself. And if we can get to a place of being able to be like, okay, because that's my training right now, honestly, is I'm looking at this and being like, okay, like what is this actually trying to do? And why? And why am I buying it or not buying it? And so what am I seeing if I'm not buying it? And how do I share that with other folks who may want to get to a place that this isn't kicking up certain things that they might not want to.
Yeah, because it clearly got to all of my pain points and all of my triggers.
It's a masterclass because you know why though? They've studied your pain points. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, okay, what are all of the ways that we can dig at the scabs and pick at your wounds and and make a few other little cuts here and there and whatever it is. And
like any NLP you can include in there that just like cuts to the core. And that each sentence is offensive by itself.
Right. Right. You can take any part of that website and have a whole thesis on it.
Yep.
Right. These folks are maybe generating the next like cohort of masters of, gender and society or feminism or linguistics or whatever it is. Like it's a very rich case study that can lend itself to a lot of things.
Yeah.
Are we done with this?
We are done.
I'm feeling complete.
Wrapping this up. Thank you for watching. I don't even know if I'm going to post this because it caused too much pain for me. Partly pisses me off. It pisses me off because they are clearly cheating or doing something that is like just morally wrong, in my opinion. And they're just going to get away with it. Like, it's just going to work. And they know that the opposite side would never go to this extreme. So they're like, you would never do this. You would never be this offensive, or I mean, they won't even see it as offensive, but like, you just never would go to the extreme.
You'd never be this assertive. You'd never be this clear. Exactly. You'd never just.
Yeah, it's almost like if you were playing baseball with this person, they're clearly cheating the whole time. And then when you point out the cheating, you're like, you just pissed off that you didn't think of it first.
Right.
Just angry you didn't think of it first, and you would have done it. And it's just like, well, no, it's morally, it's not right. And it's just like, I don't fucking care about your morals. Like, whatever. I'm trying to win, and I'm willing to win at any cost. How badly do you want it?
Right. You're not dedicated. You're not as dedicated as I am. Right. Yeah. Which is interesting.
I need to break a few eggs or offend a few people or whatever you say, verbal violence, which sounds really like wimpy to me, in your opinion. Like, oh, it's words. Like, who cares, dude? Like, yeah, I'm going to show women how to find a man that is strong and is tough and cares about women the way they should be, the way they were when they're in the 1950s. And it's like,
1950s in America, in suburban white America.
Yes.
Or settler America. I want to take that.
Settler America, even 1850s or 1750s. Like it really doesn't matter which generation. All of them are. Yeah.
It's interesting because I hear you, and when I heard you say, like, I know why this pisses me off, having taken a bit of a break and had the like white space, right? To the white space, just the space to be able to have some of your thoughts, like some of them bubble away and then some of them cement. And at the end of the day, it's predation and it's exploitative.
Yeah.
And it's very calculated. It's extremely strategic. And it is predicated on activating people's trauma. And then the language is such that it's all written in the like visionary, beautiful, whatever thing. And so if somebody says this language is violence, then it's very easy for them to point to it and be like, what about this is violent? And that also continues to give more fuel to the media that supports that view of things.
Yep.
To take the soundbite and take the clip and be like, oh, now what's a usual term, the snowflakes or whatever it is. Now they're talking about how this website is violent. Yeah. Like, what about this is violent? It's like Stepford Wives,
Yeah, we're just empowering women, and they don't like how we're empowering women. Yeah, like they could easily point to that. Right.
And I bet you, if this event is to go through and they have attendance at this convention, with this twin convention where the men are going to be and then the women are going to be. Very clear binary, of course, because that's all that's true. Cue eye roll sarcasm. Some people can't read that apparently, and I'm like, I'm sure some of the results are going to be there. They might end up, we were talking about Indian matchmaking earlier. They're going to end up playing convention matchmaking.
Absolutely.
Because when you set up, when you're on Tinder or you're going on whatever dating sites, or you're going out on a date, you're looking for a values match.
Yep.
What better way of meeting, you know, I meet people who I align with by going to things that I'm drawn to on a level of ideas.
Yep.
And the same way that you and I met, Jeff Harry, at different conferences that we were drawn to at the level of ideas, this does the same thing.
Same thing.
So I understand the mechanisms, I appreciate the mechanisms, and I also recognize that the results can be wildly different and can have disproportionate effects, both in very kind and supportive ways, and in very potentially damaging and violent ways.
And the reason why they would never see it in that way is because what we talked about earlier, which is like, everyone is the hero in their own story. And this person that put this together, as well as all the men that are there, believe they are heroes advocating for the women of the 1850s and 1950s and 1750s of like, there's women that want to act that way, and we're simply advocating for them.
I think they're advocating for the women of 2020 that have lost their voice. Like, this is the narrative, right? And what are the ways that I tell myself that same narrative? Who are the women that I believe are not able to have certain things heard, or whatever it is, that if I can pass a mic over in certain places that I have access to, and if that's not possible, then I bring the voice to the table on their behalf. Like, it's a really fascinating area that I'm kind of sloshing around in right now, because I've been on both sides of like, don't speak for me, give me the mic.
Yeah.
And other times where I'm like, I'm freaking tired. Like, I don't want to be in this conversation. Like, advocate for me. And it depends on what day it is, right? And how much capacity I have and desire I have to be engaged in those things. And so I think it goes back to any time it's like expanded into like, to the level of a group of people, and we are then tempted to paint that entire group with a certain brush and and see them through a certain lens. They become a monolith of people. And it's like Jeff and Humaira agree on a lot of things, and just Jeff and Humaira do not see eye to eye on a lot of things. Our perceptions and experiences are very different, and on certain things we are shoulder to shoulder, side by side, and other times we may be face to face in a more kind of like discussive and or tense, adversarial, debatey, whatever. Like, there's a mismatch, and other times there's a match. But, you know, when you're talking about all Black folks, or all Indigenous folks, or all women, or all young people who can't afford their houses because all they do is buy avocado toast, and you're not looking at the larger systemic issues that make something, you know, like
they win on the binary argument. It has to be binary. It can't be complex. Right. And it's actually genius and really manipulative of them to basically be like, feminism is what is forcing you to work. You don't have to work, but feminism has forced you to work. If you wanted to do other things, feminism has actually taken away that choice,
right?
Which is hilarious. It's like, it's amazing that they can take something that is the exact opposite and reframe it in a way that is just.
Well, and I'll say it's hilarious to you and I because we have the privilege of education.
Yeah.
And we've had, you know, you and I are both voracious readers, and we'll go and listen to things, and we have access in a way that many other people don't. And we have different ways of engaging with our fear when it's kicked up, or with our insecurity when it's kicked up, or when my sense of safety is being threatened. I can bring the hammer down intellectually. And that ends up actually being me exercising my privilege on other people and being unfair in that, because I have been trained and I'm very good in certain situations, you know, in ways that other people do not have. But if they had dedicated I'm just learning how to ride a bike. People can ride circles around me and pop wheelies and do all sorts of tricks that are like much younger than me or whatever else. And it's like, what have we been given the privilege and the capacity and support to learn and no longer be afraid about? Like, why am I afraid of riding a bike?
Yeah.
Or why was I for so long?